The Trump administration says it is open to hiring more federal employees, but with one big caveat. The Office of Personnel Management says that should only happen if agencies can cut down their contractor support. OPM Scott Kupor expanded on that idea and many of the administration's other priorities during a House subcommittee hearing this week. Here with more is Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
All right. So what did Director Kupor tell lawmakers about his idea of reducing contractors while hiring more federal workers?
During this subcommittee hearing, he talked a lot about how, they are looking to potentially, continue creating efficiencies is the way he put it. And what he means by that is he believes that having such a large federal contracting workforce and smaller federal workforce is costing more to the taxpayer. And he believes that if you have more federal employees, fewer contractors, that will save money and also create efficiencies. He explained more about that directly to lawmakers.
We have basically created a shadow contractor full-time employee force. So contractors, I think, can be very valuable where you have temporary assignments and or you have skill gaps where potentially the government can't recruit those. Instead, we have people who are contractors for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They are basically full-time employees in disguise, and they get paid anywhere from 25% to 100% higher than what a federal employee would on our GS scale. I would be perfectly happy if actually the 2 million headcount number in the government goes up, because we brought the contractor number down, because we will absolutely save money and we will actually deliver a better service for the American people.
And again, that's OPM Director Scott Kupor talking this week to lawmakers. I think it's important to point out here, too, that this is following more than a year of very significant reductions across the federal workforce. In just pure numbers, we've seen more than 380,000 federal employees who have left their jobs, either voluntarily through deferred resignation program or an early retirement, or by force. There have been reductions in force, probationary firings. So close to 400,000 since President Donald Trump took office last year. That may change going forward. You have these comments now from Director Kupor. There's also been some hiring decisions that have been made at agencies like the CDC and CISA within the Department of Homeland Security. More might become clear once we have annual staffing plans from agencies, but it's clear that the ship seems to be turning to some extent right now.
Drew, his statement really flips the conventional wisdom on its head that having a contractor workforce allows more flexibility, that you can add and subtract more quickly, they can be more responsive. Did he explain why the change in perspective?
It seems like it just comes down to cost. There wasn't a ton, he didn't go elaborate in a ton of detail about this idea, but generally it was a matter of salary and coming back to, well, federal employees are paid less money on average than federal contractors. So therefore, if you have positions in the contracting workforce that can be moved into the actual civil service, but do accomplish the same end goal, he says that's going to save money in the long run. So that seems to be the argument. There may be more to the story there, but it's just not something that he necessarily elaborated on during that hearing.
Well, what recruitment efforts does the Trump administration have underway to begin to play this out?
Well, as I mentioned, there are some agencies who have started hiring again, and we may see that expand later into the year. But as part of those recruitment plans, one of the initiatives that OPM has talked about pretty repetitively is the Tech Force hiring initiative, trying to recruit more skills, for example, in cybersecurity, data science, and other tech-heavy positions. Part of what the OPM director, Scott Kupor, says he wants to accomplish through that initiative is to have younger early career employees join the federal workforce. Through the Tech Force initiative, this would just be for 2-year positions, and then they would potentially have the opportunity to convert into a full-time employee or move into the private sector or somewhere else. But with that push towards early career hiring, it's also important to note here that that's actually decreased since President Trump took office. The share of federal employees who are under age 30 has gone from about 9% in 2024 to 8% by the end of 2025. That's in part due to perhaps probationary hirings and other reductions to the workforce, it seems to have impacted younger employees more heavily.
And did the committee members have any thought about the administration's goals of getting more early career workers into government?
There was definitely some pushback from the Democratic members on the committee. They questioned how, if you have all these overhauls happening to the workforce, including removing younger employees, how do you essentially turn that around and then say, hey, we're going to be hiring more younger employees now? We heard from ranking member on the committee, Steny Hoyer. He talked about the now pretty infamous comments from Russ Vought of putting federal employees, quote, in trauma. And he questioned Kupor on how you pivot from that narrative. You can hear a bit of their exchange here between Hoyer and Kupor.
That is antithetical to getting young people to come into what you say is a priority. In terms of sending a message to those young people you want to recruit, what is that positive message we're going to send them in the context of the environment we see in federal employment today?
I don't think young people actually think about 40-year careers. I think they think about small increments. Be in an environment where you can do your best work, an environment where tenure, quite frankly, does not determine your performance, but your actual merit determines your performance. And then when you've done your 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, if you want to stay here, God bless you, we'd love to have you. If you want to go to the private sector, that's great too.
That's an interesting take on that messaging challenge. What other goals did Mr. Kupor discuss with the lawmakers?
This was a very wide-ranging hearing. So that the question on hiring, the question on contractors, workforce, those were just a very small part of this hearing. Kupor also talked about OPM's tech-based efforts right now, digitizing the federal retirement process through the online retirement application. He got some questions about the surge in retirement applications there. He also spoke to the plans from the Trump administration to consolidate agencies' HR platforms into one government-wide personnel system. That's going through a contracting phase right now, and it's being held up by a bid protest, so it's a little bit on delay there. There were also questions about changes to the appeal process for employees who get removed in a reduction in force or a suitability action, a probationary termination. And there were some questions there about, why OPM wants to move that authority and make the decisions on those appeals to at OPM itself rather than the Merit Systems Protection Board. There have been concerns about how that could affect fairness of those decisions for employees and how it may create a conflict of interest. Kupor explained his rationale on the administration's stance here as well.
The reason we're trying to do that is we think we can do it much more efficiently. We think we can do it in a way that actually will protect the rights of individuals. And we think, again, this is part of us making sure we have an accountable system where it doesn't take 12, 24 months of litigation for people to make changes in the organization. OPM actually has the policy expertise, so we are the ones who have designed the rules, designed the regulatory framework for these things. And so it's a very logical consistency that kind of the designation of the rules and the adjudication of the rules are consistent functions within a single organization.
Drew, thanks for giving us this rundown. It seems like the personnel news is not slowing down at all.
Absolutely not, Terry. It's probably speeding up.
That's Federal News Network's Drew Friedman. You can find her full story at federalnewsnetwork.com.